One of the most common mistakes people make when creating a budget is overlooking certain expenses. My goal today is to shed light on these often missed expenses to help you better manage your money. A budget is an essential tool in managing our finances as it allows us to keep track of our income and plan for our future. However, creating a budget can be challenging, especially when certain expenses aren't considered or are underestimated. To make sure that you don't miss any expenses when creating a budget, it is crucial to keep track of all of your spending, which is the key to budgeting successfully. As I will point out throughout this video, this doesn't only include regular or variable expenses, but also irregular or infrequent expenses as well. Keeping track of your expenses can be done through spreadsheets, it can be done through budgeting apps, or potentially professional financial software, which can make it a hell of a lot easier to see where your money is being spent. Personally, I prefer the spreadsheet option because it's as simple as it needs to be, and it still allows me to keep track of all of the elements that I'm interested in keeping track of. And I've actually made my own personal finance tracking spreadsheet available for anyone who would be interested in using something along the lines of that to create their own budget with. I've sanitized it and made it ready for 2023 essentially, and I'll continue to make it available for whatever year it is that we're going into. So I've left a link down in the description below if you think that that may be something that might be useful for you to use. I've also made a tutorial as well explaining how to use it if it looks a little bit confusing. So feel free to use that resource as you wish. And while you're down there, if you could quickly hit that like and subscribe button as well, I would definitely appreciate the support. And with context out of the way, I'm now going to go through my list in no particular order of expenses that often get overlooked in a budget. Please drop me a comment down below of any of these that you may not keep track of that I might be bringing to your awareness today. I would be very interested to see how many of them and how many times they fall into that category of something that people don't include into their budgets. Okay, let's begin with something very basic that I think would be on almost everyone's list, but definitely still slip through the cracks sometimes, and that is subscription services, as they are very hard to avoid these days. Streaming platforms such as Netflix or Spotify, or membership programs such as things like Amazon Prime or potentially a gym membership, often go overlooked because they're generally low cost and they're things that you go, yeah, I'm gonna have it no matter what. I don't really need to keep track of how much it's costing me month in, month out. They often get overlooked and often excluded from people's budgets. Like I said, these types of expenses may seem small on a monthly basis. However, over a long period of time, they will add up to be quite significant, especially depending on how many you're paying for. Additionally, as well, lots of subscription services have an auto renew feature where customers end up getting automatically charged and may not even be aware that they are consistently still paying for a service. I've actually made a video that goes into a lot more depth about this topic, where you can go and see how to properly review or audit your subscriptions and why you should really actually care about how much you're paying for these services depending on how much you're actually using them. I've linked it down below, feel free to go and give that a watch. Anyway, another type of expense that is commonly missed when creating a budget is variable expenses. These expenses, just to name a few, include things like groceries, petrol, or entertainment, which can fluctuate month to month. They can be quite difficult to predict or account for, so it may be a good idea to set aside a certain amount of your pay month to month into an account for the purpose of going towards these types of expenses. I personally handle this by transferring a percentage of my income into my bills account every single time I'm paid that typically exceeds how much I'm going to have to spend on bills during that period. This generally enables me to cover the cost of these fluctuating expenses if they are higher during a certain pay period than what I had accounted for, which definitely reduces financial stress in every capacity. Now, in addition to subscription services and variable expenses, irregular expenses are another commonly overlooked aspect when creating a budget. These are the types of expenses that include things like car repairs, home maintenance, or potentially medical bills, which occur infrequently. They're not things that you're expecting to happen all the time, but they could definitely add up or be substantial if they were to occur in a very short window of time. This is where setting aside money in a savings account or potentially even an emergency fund can definitely assist in helping to mitigate the financial impact or the stress that would definitely be coming with one of these occurrences, depending on how severe the incident is. Other expenses that come to mind would include things like various insurances, personal care items like dental, grooming, and self-care. Additional expenses associated with a purchase can also be quite costly. As an example, let's say that you have recently taken up cycling. Up front, you might not initially consider additional costs, such as needing things like a helmet, a water bottle, maybe a bike stand, and a lock. Let's say you've gone down the path of buying a road bike. You might need to buy even more items to go along with your kit, such as cycling shoes that have cleats on them, a repair kit for your tires, maybe some new activewear that makes you light and breathable while you're riding, padded shorts so your ass doesn't get sore while you're sitting on a seat for prolonged periods of time, and lights for your bike if you're going to do some night riding. They're just a few additional expenses that you might not have even considered as part of picking up this new hobby. Then let's go even further and say, how the hell are you going to store this thing at home? Let's say you've got some limited space and you need to buy something like a wall rack. You've just turned your $500 bike purchase or $1,500 bike purchase into a new hobby that's going to cost you anywhere upwards of $5,000 once you have everything you could possibly need. Again, let's move on to another one that definitely doesn't get factored in. Kids. If you are someone who is planning to have them or already have them, you'd probably be aware, you are definitely going to be smacked with a huge range of unexpected expenses. Another one again, and this one's kind of silly to be completely honest, is rental property owners that I have seen ignore their obligation to pay tax throughout the year. So when it gets to tax time, they haven't factored it into their budget that they're going to be slapped with a hefty bill, which is going to basically be the tax component on the rent that they've collected during that financial year. I have literally seen people fall into this trap and go, where am I going to get the money? I've done something with it that was the rental income over that period of time. I don't know how I'm going to pay this bill. Another one that comes to mind is pet owners. I've seen people not include things like pet food, veterinary expenses, and grooming into their budget as well, which again can catch them off guard if they're not aware of how much they're spending on that animal. Birthdays, holidays, and random events that come up throughout the year as well can be quite costly too, if not budgeted for, especially if you have a large friends group or a large family to celebrate with every single year. Then to wrap up for today, I want to touch on renewal expenses, which are often overlooked. These types of expenses would include things like your driver's license, your passport, any type of professional certifications that need to be renewed annually or every couple of years, potentially your business renewal fees, and your vehicle registration, depending on how many of them are applicable to your own situation. These are ones that also catch people out, where my driver's license, I renewed it for 10 years and it's about to come due for renewal pretty soon. And that potentially could be another $500 to $600 expense if I do it for another 10 years, which I probably will. It's something that I've factored into my budget and I need to figure out where I'm going to get cash for to make that purchase, make that update of that thing that will allow me to function in my society. Driver's license is pretty important. It's something that I've factored into my budget. In summary, for this one in particular, the whole thing we're trying to avoid here by including something like this in a budget is basically to avoid any types of surprises. Overall, it's important to understand that depending on your lifestyle and your financial situation, that there may have been some expenses that I did not cover in today's video because they differ very much to what I'm talking about in particular today. The key is to try your very best to anticipate all of the potential expenses that may be coming your way or expenses that are current in your day-to-day and put them into a budget. And then once you have that number, once you have that visibility of what they look like, to then revisit it and make sure that it's working well for your own independent situation. Creating a budget is a vital tool to managing anyone's finances, even though it can be very challenging to anticipate every single expense. By being mindful of your expenses, including the ones that we often overlook, you should have everything you need to put together an effective and accurate budget. And that effectively is all I wanted to talk about today. So if I did cover anything that you may have been overlooking, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button down below. And if I didn't, hit that like and subscribe button down below. I need it. It's definitely helping the channel grow and I really do appreciate the support. And that is pretty much all I have. So have a good day, have a good week. And as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.